I am ready.
All right.
Let's see how this goes. I'm ready for you to do it.
All right. I can't say bienvenido.
You just did.
I know. Bienvenido. Welcome back to Beyond the Weekend. I'm here, Amy, your host. I got to start this over, Paul. I need 3 people.
Why?
All right. Okay,
perfect.
you say it. You start us off.
No, I'm not starting us off. You're the host.
All right, bienvenido. Welcome back to Beyond the Weekend. Listen, there's going to be some Spanglish on this podcast episode. Just warning, caution and warning to all listeners. We've got producer Paul in the house.
Hello.
I'm your host, Amy, and we've got Pastor Oscar Suarez with us.
Hola todos.
There we go. See, this is where the actual Spanish is going to come in. The Spanglish is Paul and me. Paul, by the way, when he does a Chipotle order, likes to label himself Paulito Burrito. So I've been calling him that recently.
That's hilarious.
So, yeah,
I'm hilarious.
You are hilarious, Paul. But here's the deal. It's a late night edition. It's Beyond the Weekend, a late night edition. Thursday night after service. This is Paul in my prime time. It's
Especially today. It's been a great long day.
Paul and I have been working together, filming stuff since 7:30
Yeah, it's been an early
a.m.
one.
It has been a real good day, but here we are. We still have cameras. Now they're on us instead of on other people.
Wonderful.
And, on me. I'm going to get Paul on camera eventually, Oscar, but
Never.
for now, it's just us. But this is super fun. We've been doing a campus highlight series, just kind of a flyby of all the campuses. So we did, who did we do first?
East with Jeff Bennett.
We did East Vancouver, JP, Jeff Bennett. That was a super encouraging story.
John.
Why am I out of order yet?
Then John.
Okay, that's my campus, Battleground, the Promised Land, I like to call it. We did
Promised Land.
Battleground with John McLeod, our brand new campus pastor, thrilled to have. We had Tom Flagg, absolute legend, on here last week with Corey Harper. And we have Corey Hancock. Wow, this is just Corey Harper. If you're out here listening, hello. Hope you're doing well getting your private pilot's license.
Shout out
to our friend Corey Harper. We got Pastor Oscar Suarez, who is here to tell us about Neuvas Alturas. So if you haven't been a part of New Heights, or if you're newer to New Heights, you may not know that we have a Spanish-speaking Latino congregation, Iglesia Neuvas Alturas, which translates to
New Heights Church.
New Heights Church. Simple as that.
Uh-huh.
The best Spanish I know. And Paul and I can attest that in staff meeting, there is we start our staff meetings out just with like highlights or wins of the week, just saying how we see God at work. And that's, I should back up. That's what these campus highlights are about, is just how is God at work in and through the people of New Heights. And there is, as soon as Oscar's hand goes up, we all know, Paul, how do we know the story is going to go?
We know that God is doing something crazy at INA because Oscar's got a story.
It almost always ends up with, I shared the gospel and they received Christ.
Yeah.
Almost always, Oscar. And you're going to shake your head, but it is so encouraging all the time hearing what's happening at Neuvas Alturas. And here's the thing, we're going to say the name all goofy. Because what do you guys say most often? Do you say Neuvas Alturas or Iglesia Neuvas Alturas?
Nuevas Alturas.
Yeah, okay. And then on the internal side, we end up just like abbreviating and using acronyms for everything. So we all say INA, which is funny because it's like nobody's walking around saying NHC for New Heights. But okay, so Neuvas Alturas is fine to say.
Yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm. On the staff side of things, it's like, there's just complete integration. It's like we get to see Oscar every week, all week. Marco, who's the worship leader at Neuvas Alturas, is on a regular rotation with our Central Vancouver campus team. Eva, his wife, as she's in staff meeting every week. She does the kids ministry for Neuvas Alturas, but is very involved with kids ministry as a whole here at New Heights. Mm-hmm. We've got Marta, Umberto, Adi. If you have not met these people, I encourage you to stop and meet them. They help. Umberto takes care of the grounds of all of our facilities, which is no small task. And him and his wife, Marta, are out. Marta's with us at Battleground on Sunday mornings and then at Neuvas Alturas in the afternoons. And we just adore them. And Adi, she is a new addition to the family. And newer addition, well, she's been part of Neuvas Alturas for a while. But then more recently joined staff and then really became part of the family when she married Eric Bustillo.
Exactly.
And that was a fun day.
Mm-hmm.
Oscar officiated that wedding. I got to be there. That was a really special day. So many of you will know know Eric Bustillo. He does De Soy, which is the middle school, high school, the youth of Nuevas Alturas. He also does all the communications. So he's on my team with that. And we're huge fans of Eric and Adi. So that on the staff side of things, it's like we feel very much one family. But the reality is, that's kind of why we're doing this whole series, because if you go to East Vancouver, you don't have a whole lot of sense of what's happening at Battleground every Sunday. And if you go to, same West Vancouver, Central Vancouver, and especially with Nuevas Alturas, because there's not just can't be in two places at once. There's also just a language barrier and a difference kind of culture. So this is going to be a fun podcast. It's good to hear from you, even though I'm doing all the talking at this point. I think we're like on a 5-minute monologue, so I apologize for that. Also, joining us on the floor, who you also cannot see, is Santi.
Santi.
My youngest son.
Yes, Oscar's
the troublemaker.
I love Santi. Santi is a drummer. I had a brother who was drummed as about Santi's age, younger too, up front. And Santi, Oscar, is he on like almost every weekend?
Yes.
At all of our campuses. I mean, he travels around. Actually, how does he get to the campuses now that I think about it?
Well, it's either me, my wife, or his older brother, Neftali, who we make sure he gets to the places.
Okay. And Neftali is Neftali has interned the last couple summers here at New Heights. He plays, and actually, if you were here tonight at Central Vancouver, Thursday night, he just baptized Killian, which is a young adult, right? Didn't Neff do the baptism?
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that his first baptism?
No. I think it was his second.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never baptized somebody.
I haven't either. Yeah.
Seems
Oscar has.
nerve-wracking.
Look at his eyes.
Oscar's like, I've baptized thousands.
I always tell people, don't worry, I won't leave you in the water more than 5 minutes.
There you go. That's good.
That's classic.
I said Eric's on our team. I'm going to keep calling Eric Oscar, but that's all right. He'll forgive me.
Yeah.
You can forgive me
I
for
consider
mistaking
that
him.
as an honor.
Okay,
Eric
all right.
is a good guy.
He is a good guy. And here's the deal. When you're on the communication team, things get lost in translation from any team to any team.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're talking about two different languages, I have done a terrible job of keeping things on the up and up.
There's some stories.
There are some stories. Oscar, we're going to tell the stories. You can out me right now. We're going to start with, here at New Heights, we have a support group. Actually, we talked about it week 1 of this series, Alcoholics Victorious. It's a great support group for people struggling with recovery struggling with alcoholism and looking for recovery. So, Iglesia Neuvas Alturas has recently joined New Heights. I am trying to get my bearings. I'm seeing all sorts of events would be submitted in Spanish, and I'm trying to figure out what they are. So it's Mujeres Victorias.
Victoriosas.
Victoriosas. Okay, well, I'm already going to butcher it. I see a word that looks like victorious. And I'm like, great, that's so awesome. They have a Spanish-speaking Alcoholics Victorious group. So I take all the information I know to be true about our Alcoholics Victorious group, where they meet, the time, location, all this stuff. And then I slap on the name that Oscar just said, which, Oscar, does not mean Alcoholics Victorious, does it?
No.
What does it mean?
Is the women's ministry?
Is their women's Bible study.
Yes.
And I sent all these poor gals who were just looking to study the Bible together, send them to a meeting for recovery. And I had no idea. I remember sitting at a restaurant. We were at a restaurant for lunch, and I'm telling Oscar how excited I am that they have this group, Alcoholics Victorious. He's telling me we don't have that. Like, yes, you do have it. No, we don't. I'm like, well, it's in the program. I'm showing it.
You're like, no, you do.
You do have it. And then I showed it to him.
I'm like, okay, well, I'm grateful.
Yeah,
that we have another ministry.
That is exactly what he was saying. And then I showed him it, and he's like, that's not what this says.
What's the direct
Whew,
translation of that for the women's Bible study?
I think it's like...
Mujeres Victoriosas is women that are victorious.
Yeah,
Okay.
women are victorious.
That's so funny.
You know, I got to back up. We have Santi sitting on the floor. We should explain that we're not just like making a child sit on the floor in here. Okay, it's after Thursday night. I said it's a late night edition. Things just are looser up here. And he's been drumming, and so he's hanging out with his dad after service. We probably should have grabbed him a chair, Paul, but Santi, I'm
you
sorry.
Want a chair, it's too late.
Because we're all locked in with these microphones, but he's good. He's young. He's got a Chick-fil-A sandwich tucked in that backpack. That's what he told us just a
Really
little bit
setting
the
the scene.
Man, just painting it up.
That's perfect.
Paul also had an inside thing there. He's not the first one to sit on the floor doing the podcast.
No, yeah. Lisa Paulson has sat on the floor while Scott was doing the podcast. Which
is an amazing little tidbit.
It's fun for people to watch what I'm doing back here.
Santi, you're in good shoes. You're following in good footsteps. So unfortunately, that was not our only one. The next one is, okay, we got a whole series
There's a lot
here,
here,
all right?
huh?
The next one is baptism. We decided, so tonight, Neftali is doing this baptism. We make these shirts that say, I have decided. And I just Google, translate, and we put this word on there. What did I put on there, Oscar?
Instead of I have decided, you put I'm lazy, pretty much.
Yes. That was another good phone call to get. Oscar comes out. I don't remember if you called or walked out to the office and it was like, we have a mistake here. It's like,
please correct this. We cannot use these shirts.
we cannot use these shirts. So
I would like one of those shirts actually if you can find one.
I still have some. I saved them.
That one Oscar got a really good laugh out of because
so
my third and final one. At this point I have retired from all translation. We have enlisted Marisol and others and his wife Leia to help with translation because Google and me are not succeeding. But we did, during COVID, we did Summer Reimagined. So we did these shirts and we had stacked the word, summer was stacked into 3 words. So SUM on one line, MUR on the other line, reimagined. And then we just translated this to, Verano, whatever the word is for reimagined, and stacked it. And here's what we're not going to break this one down, but if it's not like it's not explicit.
Obviously, you're telling the story on the podcast, so it can't be that bad.
She put the word verano, which is summer, but she separate the word ver and the other word.
Yes, and so if you are
has
interested,
a meaning in Spanish.
Yeah, it's like a medical meaning. Okay, it's not like I was out now, but it was.
Santi's laughing. He's cracking because
Santi's just realizing what I did.
So he knows what it means.
So that one, I got a very frantic phone call from Eric saying, "Have you ordered the materials?" I said, "No, I have not." He said, "Do not order anything. We need to change
Those
this."
shirts don't exist.
Yeah. So anyway,
That's
Oscar, enough
hilarious.
about me. Let's talk about Mexican food
Okay.
because I know you enjoy your food. Mm-hmm. What about Mexican food in Vancouver? Is there any good Mexican food in Vancouver?
Really good Mexican food? Not really. I mean,
Shout out to everybody with a Mexican restaurant that goes to New Heights.
being honest. I mean, there's decent places, I guess, but
What's the difference?
true Mexican food, I don't think it is really good Mexican food. Especially now that we have the missions in Quintana Roo, and I go there and I taste the food, and then I come back and I'm like,
You're like, oh, this is the real deal.
so.
You're talking about Mission de Mexico,
Yeah.
which is a summer trip, kind of like Impact Indonesia, Serve in Slovakia. We've got Mission de Mexico, where you guys go to Quintana Roo. We'll talk more about that, but just to orient people.
Yeah.
So you get some good Actually, you know what? That's true. When you guys were down there last, Eric was sending us photos to like post on social about what you were doing. And in the mix of photos he sent Nick and I was all these photos of tacos, and we were like, these are delicious looking, but
real tacos.
I've
there's some places, like, I mean, it's hard to say because it depends of what do you like, the taste that you have. But Los Antojitos in Fort Plain, there's some good tacos there.
Okay.
Los Pepes is one good place.
We love Los Pepes because they're out in Woodland. And we're at the mall now too, I think, in Battleground. Anyway.
Yeah. So
may or may not know them by first name basis. We're
Yeah.
there so often.
I've eaten there. It was good.
Yeah, it's good.
but I mean, it's okay.
Okay. I was going to say, I've had your Mexican food. I've had, you made carne asada one time for the team, and that was delicious.
Okay.
Also, Martha has occasionally at Christmas, she'll make tamales, or what is that green soup?
Oh, pozole.
Yes. Oh my goodness. When she'll occasionally at Christmas make a big batch of food to share with the staff.
And that's when it's a good thing when we invite the staff.
Yeah.
To Sabor Latino, when we make
Yes.
Sabor
Yeah.
Latino, because our people, we don't buy the food from places.
Yeah.
Our people make their own food, and it's typical food from their countries.
Which I have been to that. So that Sabor Latino means taste of Latin America.
Yes. So from each country, they bring food, typical food that is regional.
Ecuador, Salvador, all this, because Nuevas Alturas is, I mean, you're from Mexico, but there are, so it's a Latino congregation, but there's, how many countries represented there?
We have right now like 16 different.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so it's really fun, and then
Yeah.
you get to taste from different countries, and it's really good food.
How often do you guys do that event?
Only once a year.
Once a year, okay.
Yeah.
And the goal with that event is to invite the Latino community
Yes.
and just get them connected to a church. Just
Exactly.
get them some food from their, where they might be from their region. And
because we Latinos love food, and and that's actually a good attraction for people.
It's a good attraction for the staff too. Yeah. They're very kind. We can't open it up to all of New Heights, obviously, because the point really is to invite the community. But they have been very kind to invite the staff, and it is a delicious event. Have you been, Paul?
I have never been.
Okay.
I really want to go. I don't know why I've never.
You
been.
have missed it.
Yeah, I went to one that was at East Vancouver, and it was really good. Yeah, but when Marta makes these food, Angie at the front desk will send an email like, "Hey, Marta's made whatever." And honestly, if you don't get out of your chair and go right then, it will be gone because it's it's just like that. Her food disappears quickly. It's very good. So, Oscar, I said you're from Mexico. Do you mind just walking us through? New Heights and Nuevas Alturas have been connected, same church since 2016. Okay. But Nuevas Alturas existed before that, before you guys joined here. And obviously you were pastoring before that and you came to know the Lord. So I'd love to just hear your story. Like, what was the journey from Mexico to the United States, and how did that get you into ministry?
Well, I was born and raised in Guadalajara, Mexico, and I went to the seminary in Guadalajara. And right before I graduated, I received a letter from the United States saying that, you need to come to receive your green card, and I was like, whoa, that's amazing,
And so had you applied for it then?
Well, I had an older sister who became a U.S. citizen, and she applied for all the family.
Okay.
And so I was probably 2 years old when that happened. And so
when she applied?
When I was 2 years old when she applied.
But the green card didn't come till you're in seminary.
Until I was 19 or something.
Okay.
Or no, it was 19 or something like that. And so when I received that letter, I was like, "Oh, I cannot let go of this opportunity." So I decided to travel to receive the green card, and I went. It was Ciudad Suarez. And so I went there, and I thank God I received the green card. And it was the same day of my graduation.
Wow.
And by this point, I already was engaged with my wife, Leah. And
she lived in the United States.
She lived in the United States, in Riverside, California.
Okay.
But she went to Guadalajara to the seminary.
Okay.
And so she was 1 year ahead of me. And so we met there. We start praying, we got engaged, and then she moved back to Riverside, and then we were praying, and then I got my green card, and I was like, this is a sign, So I received my green card, and then I decided to move to the United States because, Leah was in Riverside, and so that's how I decided to move. And the first place I stay in the United States was Chicago because most of my family lived there.
Okay.
But 2 months after, I moved to San Diego to be closer to Leah. So we were living there. Then I got married probably a year after or so. We were living there for about 9 years.
And did you start pastoring right away when you got to the United States?
No, I was serving in a church. And then another pastor invited me to participate with him because he was starting a congregation. And then I started serving there with my wife. I became the co-pastor there. And then a situation came up with this pastor. and we were part of an association, and the association decided to fire him because of that situation. It was a really bad situation, and they told me, well, you need to become the pastor because of that.
Okay.
And I was like, whoa, I was 26 years old back then. And
and this is a Spanish speaking
Yes.
congregation in San Diego.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I had a full-time job. I recently had my son Neftali, my oldest son back then. He was probably almost 1 year old, and then I had this ministry to run, and so I was like, I don't know, this is gonna be too much. And they say, no, you need to do this because otherwise the congregation is gonna disappear. And so I felt the burden in me, and so I decided to do it. But the sad part is that this pastor, instead of being humble, he decided to be rebellious. And he show up one Sunday and say, well, the association is kicking me out because they want to put Oscar and you know, because he's younger or whatever. And that wasn't the situation.
Yeah.
It was because he had, something.
A moral failure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then all the congregation turned their back on me, and it was really, really bad.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how long it was after that it affected me really bad. My wife, we were damaged, and so we were like, we need to move. We cannot support this anymore. And so we decided to move from there to Riverside to be for a period of time with my wife's parents. And but we made a decision after that. I decided not to become a pastor no longer. Never again.
Wow.
And Leah say, you cannot do that, be a pastor never again. I say, don't worry, I will never become a pastor again.
There's no church, there's no hurt like church hurt, huh?
Yeah. And so we moved to Riverside. And then my brother-in-law, Nehemiah, he moved to Vancouver, Washington, like 5 years prior to that.
Okay.
And so we visited him, and we were like, oh, this place is really good. I used to work in construction. There was many opportunities, and we were trying to escape this, the hurt and all of that. And so we were like, let's give it a try. We were praying, and so that's how we end up here. Very quickly, I found a job. And so we decided to start congregating in an Anglo church so we can go in and out without nobody noticing.
Yeah, you don't want to be a pastor.
Exactly.
You just want to show up and
show up and live, and that's it.
Huh.
And we were like that for about a year.
Okay.
And then we both felt like that wasn't what God wanted. And so we talk and say, we cannot continue like this. Maybe not as a pastor, but we need to serve. We need to be involved. And so that's when my brother-in-law Nehemiah say, hey, I'm attending this congregation, an Anglo congregation, but they want to start a Latino congregation. I don't know if you want to be part of this. And we're like, whoa, we were praying about this. This is amazing. Let's try it. And so I used to lead and worship, and I sing and play guitar, and I was like, I can probably help on that. And so I decided to be part of that. And so I became the worship leader.
So this is this is the origins of Iglesia Neuvas Alturas,
Exactly.
which was at this moment it's a previous church. It's not New Heights Church that was saying, "Hey, we want to have a Latino congregation." So you guys formed as kind of a sister church to a different English-speaking congregation.
Exactly.
What was Nehemiah's role at that church?
He was just attending that church.
Okay, so he's attending, and there's a pastor there, and then you're leading worship.
Yes.
Cool.
And so this. Pastor Felix, he was the pastor of INA back then, and then he asked Nehemiah to be part of the leadership, and he asked me, I want you to be part of the leadership, and I was like, okay, I can be a leader. I just don't want to become a pastor, So I was
Pastor
the worship.
Felix is a smart guy.
Yes.
If he's the right word, he could get you back in.
Yeah. And so I was the worship leader for a few years, and then. But he was Pastor Felix. He started churches, and he was there for 3 to 5 years, and then he moved on. And then after 3 years, he's like, I cannot be a pastor for too long. I just start
a church
churches.
planter.
A
Yeah.
church planter.
Oh, so cool.
So we need to look for somebody, and then he look at me, and I'm like, "Don't look at me. I'm cured of this. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do this no
Yeah.
longer." And no, I think you have what it takes. You know, I think God did call you, and I'm like, nope. And then a year go by, and then he asked me again, and then another year, and then he asked me again, and I say every time I say no. And then we took a trip to Nicaragua, a mission trip, and that's what things change. And in that trip, I remember we were in a small town, and we were having kind of like a conference or something like that for pastors of the area of that region. And some of the people were walking like 2 or 3 hours just to get there. And that impressed me. And very humble people. They were struggling with so many things, and they didn't give up. You know, they just kept going in ministry. And I was like, and I already gave up, you know? And they're struggling way with more difficult things than me, and they're not giving up, and I already give up, you know? And so I felt confronted by God in that moment. And I just felt like if God was telling me, if you don't want to take the opportunity, if you don't want to serve me, I'm going to choose somebody else. And if you're going to regret that for the rest of your life. So either you do it, or I'm choosing somebody else. And that's when I start crying, and that's when I make the decision, okay, Lord, I will serve you.
Was Pastor Felix on that trip with you?
Yes.
Okay, so he's watching this unfold.
Yes, he's watching it.
Yeah.
And so I say, but I already say yes, but I'm not going to say anything to Pastor Felix or anybody else, because you need to first convince my wife.
Yeah.
You know?
Who was also damaged and hurting
Yes.
badly. Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't want to say anything to her, you know.
Yeah.
I say, you need to convince her.
Yeah.
And if you convince her, then I'm all in it, you know. So
how did the Lord do that?
to be honest, I don't even know, because I came back and then I started doing things, you know, serving the Lord in a different way. And then she noticed, and then all of a sudden, like 6 months after, she came to me and say, you know, I can see that God is calling you. I notice in you something, and I don't want to be the one, you know, in front of what God is doing. So if God is calling you to be the pastor, you have my support. And I was like, really?
Yeah. All right, God.
Yeah. I was like, are you serious? Because if you're saying this, I'm gonna say, Pastor Felix, yes, and there's no way back. And she's like, no, I'm behind you. Okay. And then I told Pastor Felix that, and it took probably another year or two to make the transition, and then I became the pastor. That was probably a year and a half before joining New Heights.
Okay. So, and part of the story of that church, or of your time at that church pastoring, was that church started going through some difficulties, and part of that was financial difficulties that left you guys without a building. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was actually, in fact, during this season. Like, it was on November when one of the leaders told me, "Hey, you need to start looking for another place, because we're probably losing our building, and the place we're gonna buy something smaller, and you're not gonna have a place. So you need to start looking for something." I was like, "Whoa," you know.
Yeah.
And by that time, in a year and few months, we grew up from 65 to 115.
Wow.
And so I was like, it's raining, it's cold. Where am I going to take these people?
Yeah.
And so I was praying. And thank God, my wife, she's an RN, and she was serving at New Heights Free Clinic as a volunteer.
Yeah, Leah, she's a nurse, and she had been serving there for quite a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I asked her, I say, ask them and tell them if they will be willing to host a Latino congregation, because I heard they don't have anything there, you know. And so she said, okay, I'm gonna ask, and that's what started the connection, actually. And so then a few month after or so, we met with your dad, Pastor Matt, and we had a good probably an hour and a half conversation, and then he's like, Actually, I cried that day because he said words that I was like, whoa, that was very. I was impacted. He said, "You're the ones we were looking for." I was like, "What? What he means with that?" And so after that conversation, it probably took another month or two
I
before we
remember,
joined.
Paul, when did you join staff?
2018.
Okay, so this is after you.
Yeah.
Because I was new-ish on staff, and I remember we were at the West Vancouver building when we were downtown, the older church building, and you came in. That was the first I met you, and I remember my dad and others explaining that you guys were going to be joining New Heights, and not just like hosting you, but your congregation would be our congregation. We would be one church, and I remember being hugely encouraged by your story. And Mark Langen, who was on staff at the time, I remember him just like talking with so much excitement over just saying we will be so blessed to have become a multicultural church. And I had not experienced that before, so I didn't really know, but he was right. It's been a good ride. And we're coming up on 9 years, or it was 2016, I think. Yeah, so we're coming up. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a huge blessing for us. I remember one of the conversations Pastor Matt had with the tech support, because he showed us every campus, and he said you can choose any place where you think is good for INA. And we were praying with my leaders, which is the place it's gonna be better for INA to grow and be stable and all that. And so we decided that Central, it was better because of the clinic, and having Latinos there and all that. And so we decided here, and so he started talking to the tech support, saying we need to make this place, better for having a congregation here.
And talking about the summit.
Yes, the summit.
Yep, you guys use the summit.
So we need to kind of like renew or do better, And so, and I was listening, how much they were going to invest and all that. And I was used to in the other congregation, other Anglo congregation, where they put us in a garage, or we show up one Sunday and there were no chairs, or all of a sudden they took the sound system or whatever, you name it. And you can name any difficulty. And I actually told my leaders, let's do the best with what we have. And so that was our saying, And all of a sudden, it's like, let's put this the best shape possible for them to be to lead and host the congregation. I was like, you don't have to do that. This is good. It's fine. And he's like, no. You don't worry. We want you guys to be in a good place, and this is your home. And I was like, wow. I mean, I don't remember how many times I cry. When we joined, but it was many times.
Yeah, I remember your first Sunday. It was just super exciting because there was kind of the connection, and then getting ready for that Sunday launch when you guys launched in the summit. And yeah, just recently, Nick and I were working on some video, and those photos popped up of you guys on stage, and you and Marco, and so much of the team is still like who your staff is now. They were there then. It's pretty amazing that how steady your team has been, and how you guys have grown. You mentioned the clinic. And the clinic's played a central role in your congregation because you guys had, that's where that's the connection to New Heights, and then why you chose this campus. But it's also, as a free medical clinic, one of the populations it does serve is, it has a heavier Latino population that goes there. And so translation has been a real need. And so your congregation has stepped in and served not just as medical professionals there, but largely as translators. And which I know has just been a huge gift, and at times has opened the door for people there to then come and join, come attend Neuvas Alturas, because that's part of the free medical clinic. For if you may not know this, but at New Heights on the Central Vancouver campus, we do have a free medical clinic that opened in the 90s, I think, and it's part of the way they operate is they really want to address the spiritual need of every patient, not just the physical need. So they pray with every patient, and they invite them to any of our congregations. But when they're Spanish speaking, we've got a great home for them. So, and actually, there's another connection with that, right? With recently, so you mentioned Quintana Roo, Mexico, which is I also said Mission Day Mexico, which is how we've labeled it for our summer trips, our global outreach trips. So, can you talk a little bit about Quintana Roo and the connection there, and then we'll get to the clinic part. But if you just talk about what you guys have been doing down there.
So what we have been doing is we have 3 different congregations there that these 3 pastors have been working together, but they haven't had a background of support or Bible study, or they didn't go to seminary or things like that. They have been self-taught. So one of the things that when we visit them, they say we need help, how to organize our ministry, how to develop leaders, volunteers, and, how to do better ministry. And so we're like, we don't know much, but what we have, we can offer, right?
Yeah.
And
that's everybody in ministry. If you think you know much, then you're probably pretty dangerous.
Yeah. So that's what we have been doing. We have been going there with classes, conferences and things like that to help them how to organize and how to develop new leaders, volunteers. And so far has been a really good thing. And so in there, they're in Chetumal, Carrillo Puerto, and Yaslay, and they're separated between the 3 congregations probably an hour and a half or 2 hours. So in one of the congregations is pretty close to the Mayan community, and this region is not being reached yet by any Christian community. Wow. There's not even a Catholic church in those regions.
Wow.
And so one of these pastors, he already has a home Bible study with 3 or 4 families there. So he already went in. And so we're trying to support them and help them to improve so that they can, in the future, if they make their congregations be solid and stable, then they can go in and start reaching out to those communities. And most recently, we had the pastors visiting.
Yeah, because you guys have gone there 4 times?
5.
5 times. Okay, you've gone there 5 times. So this fall, you invited the pastors to come here to kind of see what it is we do here. And then the wives came on the second trip, or they came with the pastors?
With the pastors.
Okay. And in that trip, they toured the clinic just as part as like a tour. And,
yes.
But they really caught a vision there.
Yes, especially the church in Carrillo Puerto, because the church in Carrillo Puerto had at least 7 people that are related to the medical, dentists.
There's 7 medical professionals.
And so they were like, whoa, this is impressive. Maybe we can do something like that and start reaching the people through that. And so they ask, hey, what are the possibilities of the clinic to go there and help us out to how to do this, how to start this, how to, and so it was just a comment, and so
just a little question like, could this ever work?
Could some of this, and so Dr. Steve took it very seriously.
Yeah. Steve Baker, Dr. Steve Baker, who's been the founding physician at the New Heights Free Medical Clinic.
Yeah, and then a week after or so, I received a call and, hey, Oscar, that comment, we're serious about it. And I was like, oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And so, we're thinking about it. Maybe next year we can go and start talking to these people because I think we can help them. And I'm like, okay. So now we already have the tickets, actually.
Okay. When is it that you guys are going?
On February.
Okay.
Yeah, the second weekend of February. And Dr. Steve Baker and Diane. And
Diane Dunlap, who manages the clinic.
And my wife to be the translator, because I can translate usually, but medical terms.
You can translate better than I can. That's for sure.
Medical terms are going to be hard for me.
Yeah.
And so, but my wife is going to go to do that. And so yeah. And so, I don't know exactly what's going to happen because that's something that I'm not it's not my area.
Yet to see, but
that's gonna be the first step, just to the doctor get to know those people over there, interact with them, ask the questions. They can ask the questions, and to Dr. Steve and Diane, and Steve, they can ask the questions over there and start those interactions and see the place, the environment, and trying to understand how they work over there.
What it would look like to do medicine there. Yeah.
And I think from that, it's gonna show what will be the next step.
Yeah.
But it's exciting.
It's very exciting. And it's just cool how God works. Like, the first connection was this medical clinic, and it continues to play a role in the life of Nuevas Alturas. And, it's fun.
And actually, that is something that it's very motivating, is that the people that they have over there related to medicine, they're between the ages of 24 to 35.
Wow.
And when I was talking to Dr. Steve, he said that his plan is to have the medical personnel, that they're college people or volunteers that they have, they are on that range of ages, and it could fit perfectly. And I'm like, whoa, that's even better, you know.
He's an amazing guy. He's another guy we got to have on the podcast sometime. Just we'll consider the clinic a campus, Paul, maybe next go around. Next campus highlight series.
An excuse to get Steve and Diane on this podcast.
Really, we should, because the clinic has an pretty incredible story all its own of the ministry that happens there. And Steve has no shortage of vision. I mean, he has not just provided lots and lots of free medical care here in Clark County, but in Indonesia, he's helped facilitate it over there. He's done the Summer Medical Institute for many years of helping young medical professionals integrate their faith, figure out how to integrate faith into their medicine and use it as a ministry tool. So,
and I haven't told Dr. Steve, but one of the things that when we start the first trip that we have, your dad and I, Pastor Matt and I, one of the things that the pastors over there were very impressed is that we treat each other respectfully, but like we are the same, you know. There's not that category of Pastor Matt is here and I'm here, you know.
And you're talking about racial, like that's what would be the disparity?
Racial or education status or, because we are friends, you know, and
you're both just brothers in Christ who are
and they were impressed because Pastor Matt was teasing me, saying jokes about me, and I was laughing, and they were like, and then I returned the favor, saying jokes about him, and they were like, whoa, and so I said a joke and say, oh, the gringos this, and then whoa, and then Pastor Matt started laughing, and they were like, oh, so I haven't said that to Dr. Steve, but I'm going to say jokes about gringos in front of him.
All right, you're going to roast him. Dr. Steve Baker, if you're listening to the podcast, you just, we're going to have to.
Be prepared.
Yeah, spoiler alert, Pastor Oscar's coming for you. That's pretty fun. So, Oscar, you said you've got about 16 countries represented in Nuevas Alturas. What are just some of the joys of leading a multi-cultural congregation?
Well, it's fun. For one, is because since I came to the United States, which is probably 27 years ago, I haven't encountered another congregation like that. Most of what I have seen, they have congregations that have 2 or 3 different countries from Latin America. The majority have one. They're all from Mexico or Guatemala or whatever, or maybe they have 2 countries or 3 at the most. But having 15 or 16 is not normal, and just for that, it gets me excited. And it motivates me to see that we get to have a harmony and respect between everybody. And because we have the same mission, and the people see that, they see that we love the Lord, and that's our focus. And we don't make our nationality or country our.
That's not our identity.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, and that's one. And then the other is The food.
Jesus and the food.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a good combination.
Yeah. So yeah, you get to taste everything when you visit a family or Sabor Latino or things like that. It's really fun, that part too. And as a pastor, I have to be careful of the words that I use because
because you got a lot of cultures that you're dealing with.
yes, and so
That's
sometimes I'm
interesting.
like, okay, this word, I don't know, I have to be more general in the words that I speak because I don't want to use something that it could mean something else in another country.
Yeah.
So I have learned through the years, and still, some slang. How do you say slangs or
Yeah, slang. That's
Yeah.
the right term.
Yeah, and that I'm like, in Mexico means this, but who knows what it means in El Salvador or so I would rather not say that, and so sometimes I have to be careful, but it's fun because I get to be careful,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's fun.
That's cool. And another, I feel like just a huge bright spot in Nuevas Alturas is the youth. And you want to just talk about kind of the vision there because there's part of, there's obviously the context of wanting to have shared language or a congregation that has language, but then there's also emphasis to integrate in the youth. So do you want to talk about Dea Soy and how you guys manage both the identity of Nuevas Alturas, but integrating?
Okay. As a question, maybe Eric will be the one that most qualified to answer that, but it's a little difficult for the next generation because their first language is English instead of Spanish.
But for many of them, their parents' only language
is Spanish.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's why in the Yo Soy,
Which, do you want to tell us what Dea Soy means?
the Yo Soy it means I belong to God. The Yo Soy, the I am.
I am, and that's that's kind of the youth group name for both middle school and high school.
Yeah. So I belong to the I am pretty much.
Yeah.
So that's why the Yo Soy is in English all the time, and sometimes when they're separated wherever they start speaking in Spanish or something like that. But mainly I think it's in English because that's their first language. Sometimes I step in and start speaking Spanish just to, just say, hey, don't forget about Spanish, you know. But that's actually another area that I'm quite happy about the integration that we have because when we joined New Heights, it was hard at the beginning to have our youth to be interested in camps of New Heights and all that. I remember asking our kids, hey, do you want to be part of the camps? And they say no, they didn't want to be part. And we were thinking about how can we make our kids be wanting to be part of this. And we didn't know how to start. But now, since things start changing, your kids are helping
make camp happen.
Yes,
is how it's changed. Yeah.
So now our kids are very excited about it.
They're going, they're leading.
They feel part of it, and so they love camps and they love New Heights, and so we see the interaction.
Yeah.
And so it gets me excited about the future too.
Yeah. Eric's played a huge role in that, no doubt, and he's got to be one of the most beloved people on the next gen team, I would say.
Yeah, he has a good character.
Yeah. Okay, Oscar, I got 2 hard-hitting questions for you.
Okay.
All right. The first is, when did you start supporting Barcelona?
When I start, I
don't even understand this question.
Paul knows that I don't understand it either.
No,
okay,
I don't understand.
It's a football team, right?
Yes.
Yeah. See, listen, I texted Jonathan Dukes on the side, and he set me up with this one.
Okay.
He would like to know.
Okay.
Jonathan Dukes would like to know, when did you start supporting Barcelona?
Okay. Well, I started supporting Barcelona. Well, before I didn't like soccer, and I didn't play soccer until I was 30.
Okay.
I used to play basketball and like basketball until I was 30. So we moved to Washington, and when I came here, I moved first by myself, not with my wife. And my brother-in-law, he was a huge fan of soccer.
Okay.
Yes. And so he decided to invite me to play soccer because he saw me alone and he's like, you can't stay at home by yourself. Come with me and play. And I'm like, I don't like soccer. And I haven't played soccer. Probably I was 8 years old when I played for the last time. Come with me. And so, okay, I decided to go. And he used to play in a Premier League. And it was a good level, right?
This is Nehemiah.
Yes.
Okay.
And he's a really good defender.
All right.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go. I was out of shape. And I didn't play soccer for who knows how many years. And I decided to show up.
How'd that work out for you?
Oh, man, it was so bad. It was so bad. People started making fun of me. And it was like, who's this guy? And then I was embarrassed. But I'm a very competitive person.
Okay.
Instead of being depressed, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to show you, I'm going to become a really good soccer player.
At age 30.
And then you're going to call me to beg me to come to play for you. So then I told my brother, hey, what do I need to do to become a really good player? Well, watch soccer and see how the people play and choose one player that you think it fits the way you can play. And start playing indoor and start playing in there, and then you will get it. Okay, so I start playing every week. I used to play probably 4 games a week or 5.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was like, I got in shape like
You're
this.
not kidding about being competitive.
Oh yes. And the team, and during that time that it was kind of like at the peak, it was Barcelona.
Okay.
And the player that I saw that I play kind of like him, it was Iniesta. And I was like, I think I played like this guy.
Okay.
And so I started watching that guy, how he plays, the moves and all of that. And so I was like, I'm going to play like that guy. And so like in 3 months, I was very tired at work because I would work in construction and it was a Friday or whatever. And I was moving material up and down and I was tired. And so I didn't show up to the game, and then the guy who runs the team was like, Oscar,
called you.
Where are you? Where are you?
Your dreams came true.
And I'm like, I'm very tired.
The day came.
You have to be here. We need you.
To come.
And I'm like, see, I told you.
You did it. Yeah.
So I made it.
That's good.
That's inspiring.
That is. Maybe Paul and I are going to go.
I'm inspired
We're
now.
going to go kick a soccer ball around after this.
So since then, I started looking.
So that's how you got on the Barcelona train. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then the next question, the follow-up question is, how is it working with so many Real Madrid fans?
Well, I love them. Not everybody's perfect.
Okay. And who are they? Real Madrid, it's JP and Jonathan?
No.
No. I'm going to get them in trouble.
No, from the staff, I don't think. I haven't met anyone from staff that I know they're like Real Madrid. But for sure, I have some people from our church that are not Christians yet.
Okay.
I preach the gospel hard, but they don't get it.
They haven't heard it yet. Not until they switch teams.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
No, I still have members at church that they like Real Madrid. No, it's just a sport.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we tease each other.
Yeah.
And
it's fun.
And that's it.
Cool. Well, Oscar, super fun to have you on here. Fun to just know that, just as we said, we're doing this campus highlight series just to give everybody a peek into what happens at all of our campuses. We'll be doing it again. And hopefully next time we can have somebody from the campus join with you. But for this, it was just super fun to share with the larger church some of your story, some of the origins of Neuvas Alturas, and how it is we got to be one church together. It's a special thing. And so thank you for being here and doing the late night with Paul and I.
Thanks for having me here, and
yes.
Hi to all the church.
Yes. And next week we've got Mark Hartley, Beyond the Weekend original, back in the studio. With me, we'll be doing West Vancouver. Special guest, TBD.